Hi, welcome back to Consider the Truth. It's been a little bit since I've made a video. I just wanted to give an update about Ezra's Eagle and my thoughts on that. I think October, I made a video, or maybe it was sooner than that, but I made a video about how Joe Biden seemed to not be running his presidency, how he already had become the short feather, and then Donald Trump came into office, and people seem to think that that makes the prophecy invalid. However, I don't really see anything in here that shows that Donald Trump wouldn't become the president, since Joe Biden had already fallen off before Donald Trump had in his previous presidency, and I kind of proved that in my previous video. I think it's important to look at why we have this beast, if how this beast is going to behave. I think we all assume that this beast is a bad guy, and I think there's a lot in here to show that the beast is doing the Lord's will, and we're going to talk about that in this video. So let's see, we'll do this one. So going into 2nd Ezra, chapters 11 and 12, I combined the two chapters to kind of read in my own words and to summarize things, to make it kind of give a 30,000-foot overview of what's going on here. So when I combine it and put it in my own words, it says, Ezra saw the same beast that Daniel saw. In the last days, so this can't be Rome, this is the last days. In the last days, there was an eagle with 12 wings or feathers, which represent kings, and 3 heads, that had influence over the whole world, and people from all over gathered into the eagle nation. The body of the eagle, or the people of the nation, chose for each feather to have a turn watching over the nation or world. And the nation would be in danger of failing, and this process will restore the nation back to its constitution. And the heads rested until the end. So the whole, that I think that's a key verse that people forget, that by the end of this, we're restoring the nation to its beginnings. In verses 17 and 18, it says in chapter 12, As for the voice which thou heardest speak, and that thou sawest not go out from the heads, but from the midst of the body thereof. So this isn't the lion speaking. This is at the beginning when the body speaks. This is the interpretation, that after the time of that kingdom there shall arise great strivings, and it shall stand in peril of failing. Nevertheless, it shall not then fall, but shall be restored again to its beginning. So when it speaks, the only other time it speaks is right here. And I beheld, and lo, the eagle rose up on her talons and spake to her feathers. Okay, so it's going to restore the nation back to its constitution with the eagle heads. And then I think most people are familiar with this part. There were 8 feathers on the right wing and 4 feathers on the left wing. 2 of the first 6 feathers would be cut short. 4 will be cut short at the end before the heads reign. Before the heads reign, 4 will be cut short, and 2 short feathers at the very end after the reign of the heads. The feathers on the right wing reigned first, starting with the first feather, and then it stepped down, and the second feather reigned. And no other king would rule more than half as long as the second king, and each feather came and went. But some of the feathers were set up to rule, but didn't. 12 rulers came and went, including 2 that were short-lived. And all that were left were the 3 resting heads and 6 more feathers. Then 2 of the remaining feathers separated themselves from the others and went under the head of the right wing. We don't know who these 2 are yet. And the 4 feathers thought they would rule. The first 2 was set up, but were cut short. So that's Donald Trump's first presidency, Joe Biden's presidency, and then the second feather, and the second feather had less time than the first. So I talked about how Joe Biden was cut short. Also, interesting to look at, Joe Biden, the inauguration was January 20th, 2021, and he stepped out. He didn't resign, but he decided to step out of the election to rerun on July 21st, 2024, which is 42 months and 1 day. which might be significant. That's up for interpretation, I guess, but it's 42 months. Then the last two feathers of the four were about to rule, but the middle eagle head awoke. So the last two feathers, probably, in my opinion, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, they were set up, they were put there, they were not elected, and they thought they were going to rule. They thought they had it in the bag. But then the eagle head woke up, and the other two eagle heads joined it, and they ate the two feathers. Okay, so the other two heads are working with the middle head right now. But then it died, and then the middle head ruled the earth with much oppression and had more power than any of the feathers had. So I think this is where we get the idea that that the eagle head rules in wickedness, because it says with much oppression. In chapter 12, verse 25, it says, let me go over here. For these are they that shall accomplish his wickedness and that shall finish his last end. So it depends on where you're at, because you might feel oppressed if you're the USAID right now. You might feel oppressed if you're Mexico and Canada or China or Hamas. You might feel oppressed if you've been ripping off the United States for the last so many years. But then this middle eagle head died in its bed with pain, and the other two heads remained and ruled in like manner. So they're going to rule in the same way that Donald Trump is ruling now, until the right head killed the left head. Okay, so now there's only one eagle head left. Then Jesus Christ will come and rebuke the feathers, the body, and the last eagle head in the flesh. And I assume this is probably going to happen through the prophets and not through an appearance of Jesus Christ. Could be wrong, who knows? But we'll see that this last eagle head and the last two feathers decide to try to take over the United States. And they don't get too far, but I feel like if Jesus Christ came to them, they probably want to do that. Jesus says, "Are you the last of the four beasts that would facilitate the end times? You are the most powerful of all rulers ever upon the earth and ruled with wickedness. You have judged wickedly, by afflicting the poor, loving the liars, and destroying the innocent. So now God will judge you, and the world will no longer be ruled by the eagle, so that the earth can be refreshed and delivered. The last eagle head and the two feathers that separated themselves come back, but their following is small and chaotic. And then the last head was killed, and the feathers were gone, and the eagle's body was burnt, which frightened the entire earth, and the vision concluded." And then in verse 34, it talks about, "And the Lord's people will be joyful." So I think right now Donald Trump is the middle eagle head, and he's doing the Lord's will. He's oppressing the wicked. In let's see, in Revelation chapter 13, it says, "And I saw one of his heads, one of the beast heads, which one of the seven heads of the beast. I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast." You remember a time like that where Donald Trump might have been wounded to death, but he didn't die, and all the world wondered about that? And then there was this other beast head that had a mouth for speaking great blasphemies, telling lies, robbing the poor, doing all these terrible things. It was given unto him to continue for 42 months. And he persecuted the saints and all these things. I talked about how that was going on in one of my previous videos. And it's interesting because, so after this beast that gets wounded, staying in Revelation chapter 13, it says there was another beast coming up out of the earth, and it had two horns like a lamb. And so that's where people start thinking about this Antichrist, because he's like the lamb. He's like Jesus, but he's not. He speaks as the dragon. And he exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. So he's going to rule like Donald Trump, just like Ezra's eagle prophecy says, they'll rule in the same way. And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven. Do you know anybody that makes fire come down from heaven and that rules with Donald Trump right now? Maybe from a rocket. And deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles. And he makes an image to the beast which had the wound by a sword and did live. So there's going to be some kind of image or memorial created, which is interesting because Donald Trump just recently announced, he says, I'll just read this whole thing. The stories of legends like Washington, Winthrop, and Williams remind us that without faith in God, there would be no American story. Every citizen should be proud of this exceptional heritage. That's why I have signed an executive order to resume the process of creating a new national park full of statues of the greatest Americans who ever lived, a memorial, an image, which I think Donald Trump himself will be part of here soon. So it says, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast. So he doesn't have power to bring a statue to life, but it might appear that he does, and that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. So who has power to make images speak? So maybe somebody tied in with AI, maybe somebody that has the largest speaking platform in the world with Twitter. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand and in their foreheads. Now, I don't know if that's a literal mark. I've always assumed, that that was, I don't know where my thing went. There it is. I always assumed that it was talking about your thoughts and your actions being in your forehead and your right hand. I could be wrong. It could be an actual chip. There are biometric things happening right now where that could be a thing. Verse 17 says, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. So Elon Musk just announced that he's creating X money. You could look that up. It's going to go through Twitter, and he wants it to be the everything app. You buy, you sell, you trade, everything goes through X, and it's all going to go through some cryptocurrency thing. Okay, and then chapter 17 talks more about the beast in the book of Revelation, which I think is interesting because there's this great whore, which is Babylon, and it sits on this beast. The beast has these different horns, and it's interesting because these horns are kings. The 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. These have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. Okay, so these guys give power and strength to the beast. They don't actually have a kingdom, but they're very powerful and influential, as a king would be. And these make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them. So these must be bad guys, right? Because they make war with the Lamb. But they lose. The Lamb shall overcome them, for he is Lord of lords and King of kings. And then it says that the 10 horns, which we assume are bad guys, the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore. They hate Babylon. They hate corruption. They hate the culture that the beast is creating. These shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh, and burn her with fire. For God hath put in their hearts to fulfill his will. He changed their hearts. And to agree and give their kingdom, they give their power and their influence unto the beast, until the words of God shall be fulfilled. So God uses these influential and powerful people to fulfill his will. He's going to accumulate power in nations and kingdoms and unify the world to some degree. And then when Christ comes, he'll rule King of Kings over all. And so that's what I think is happening. Uh, Leave a comment. If other people are talking about this, please share, because I haven't seen anybody talking about this. That's why I made this video. I'd like to learn more. I don't know everything, but I'd like to have more commentary, more opinions, more back and forth to kind of hash this out. Anyway, if you like the video, like it or share it. Leave a comment. If I'd love to hear your views on this. Thanks for watching. Bye.